Hello, everyone. Happy Monday and welcome to Moxie Bets presented by Caesars Sportsbook. Today, we're talking Monday Night Football angles, TNF picks, and recapping yesterday's biggest games. In order to do that, let's bring in our guy, Kenny Bets Big. Thanks for joining us, Kenny. How you doing today?
Hey, well, I'm happy to be
Hey,
back.
yeah. Gabagool.
Yeah, right? Get a little Jersey, New York accent in there. Happy to be back. NFL has, I think the last time I was on, I was telling you I was getting my butt kicked.
Yeah, it's gotten better.
Betting NFL. But things turned around pretty quickly. Had a big two weeks going back to back. So
Good.
Hopefully we can get the listeners some winners too.
I love that. I've had some weeks. I haven't had like a week where I like crushed the board. I've had definitely like more winning weekends and losing weekends, but I have not had that big like all of them cashed. I feel like this has been a particularly hard season. But let's recap some of the stuff that happened on Sunday. I think one of the best storylines right now in the league is CJ Stroud. I mean, he's got some MVP talk right now. The Texans beat the Bengals. They were 6.5. At one point, they were 8.5 point dogs. I believe the line closed at about 5.5. 30-27. CJ Stroud beat Joe Burrow. And look, especially as a 49ers fan, I've seen how good this Cincinnati teams look. They were coming to that game, winning 4 on the row. Their defense was crazy. Obviously, Joe Burrow was moving and grooving and looked to be like himself again. But now you got someone like CJ Stroud. He's the favorite for Offensive Rookie of the Year. It's at like minus 550 or something. But now people are starting to throw him into the MVP conversation. Wanted to get your take on this and just what you think of the Texans in general. They had a great draft. They're well coached.
Yeah, the Texans was my biggest. Then I went bigger on the Jets to end the night. So
upset, you had the Texans to upset or just against the spread?
I had them +7, so I grabbed them early in the week, and line went off at 5.5. So I felt good about that. But CJ Stroud is a baller. The whole game I was texting back with my buddy because he does a podcast, and a few weeks back he was talking about how CJ Stroud is the best rookie in the class.
Yeah,
he nailed that one right on the head because he looks poised. Right, they have a terrible offensive line, but it doesn't seem to matter. So I don't want to hear the offensive line sucks anymore as an excuse because here's this rookie who's lighting it up out there with a bunch of no-name players around him. So MVP though, I think we should pump the brakes. I think there's only been one time in NFL history where a rookie's won the MVP, right? I think it was Jim Brown.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's like I feel like the MVP talk. It was like a few weeks ago it was Christian McCaffrey, until the Niners started losing. Although he did have 2 touchdowns in each of those games that the Niners lost. Poor thing, did not get it yesterday. We will get into the 49ers here in a little bit, but then, it was like everyone was like, oh, Christian McCaffrey for MVP. And now it's like CJ Stroud for MVP. Yeah. I mean, the reality is it's going to go to one of those quarterbacks like I don't know. Patrick Mahomes hasn't necessarily had a great season, but I don't think it's going to go to CJ Stroud. And I don't even think it's going to go to CMC.
Yeah. I have Lamar Jackson. I bet him before the season. So
yeah.
I got him plus 2,200. I had him last year. He kind of fizzled out down the stretch. Obviously, he missed a bunch of games. But if he stays healthy, I think he can easily win it. And I was looking at the odds before this show, just so I knew what I was talking about here. And why is Jared Goff getting so disrespected? He's plus 3,000 right now. He's not even in the top 10.
There are some quarterbacks that just consistently get disrespected. Jared Goff is one of them. Kirk Cousins is one of them, probably because of his primetime play. I also think my guy Jimmy Garoppolo here, not that he's a great quarterback, but he gets disrespected. There are just some quarterbacks that people don't respect, and I feel like Jared Goff is one of those. Because he had those kind of down years with the Rams, they just don't want to give him his flowers.
It's crazy because I actually had the Chargers in that game yesterday, so I was glued to the whole game. And Jared Goff, man, there's been a lot of talk, right? Like they're winning, like kind of despite Jared Goff, but he's lighting it up, man. He made some big plays in that game yesterday, like that the game-winning drive, huge, big plays. Dan Campbell, balls of steel, man. How do you go for it on fourth? How do you do that? But it worked out. Good for him.
Yeah. Well, and I like coaches that have balls of steel. It's not like Ron Rivera, remember, against the Eagles when he decides to kick instead of going for it for two. It's like, how do you not try to win this game? So I appreciate that. Back to CJ Stroud real quick. Okay, we don't think he's going to be the MVP, offensive rookie of the year. I mean, it's absolutely a lock. If you haven't bet it before now, don't bet it now. Minus 550, probably even more after Sunday. But he threw yesterday 365 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Texans visit the Cardinals next week. And Kyler Murray coming back was pretty exciting yesterday. I thought that he balled out. I mean, he was throwing some of those deep balls. I also like that the Cardinals kind of went for it. They could have just kicked a field goal and they decided to get that drive all the way down. He was running. I mean, Mighty Mouse is back, but obviously I'm still going to give the edge to the Texans here versus the Cardinals. The Bengals have the Ravens Thursday night football. Any thoughts about these upcoming games?
For the Thursday night game?
Or even Texans Cardinals.
Well, Texans Cardinals, I think that's kind of, if you've been paying attention to kind of like, the talk of the town type, who's getting all the hype that week, and you kind of fade it the following week, you're doing pretty well betting wise.
Okay.
So I feel like the Texans this week are that, everyone's high on. What was that?
A little bit of a letdown spot.
Yeah, exactly. And, Kyler Murray, we were just talking about disrespected quarterbacks. Yeah. Like, he's got to be one of them. When he's healthy and he's out there playing the way he can, he's one of the best out there. So, I think the Cardinals with Kyler Murray, I think it's up to 5.5, that line. So I actually like the Cardinals there in that spot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it either. I think it could be a letdown spot for the Texans. And then as far as this Thursday night game, I mean, I lean Ravens I'm just talking about outright win to win this game. I haven't looked at the spreads or anything quite yet, but this is going to be a good matchup.
Yeah, this is a huge game, and this is big for the MVP race too, right? Like, if Joe Burrow goes out there and lights it up, I think he can catapult himself kind of towards the top of that list. If Lamar goes out there and has a big game, I think he'll probably be the odds-on favorite, depending what Hurts or Mahomes does in that matchup on Monday night. This is the first week that we actually have good primetime games. I'm excited.
God, because last night was absolutely brutal, and we will get into that also in a little bit. One more storyline that I find to be really inspiring and fun, and since we kind of touch on the Cardinals, is Josh Dobbs, right? I mean, drafted to Pittsburgh, kind of bounced around a little bit, not really playing, comes in, balls out for the Cardinals in the first few games of the season, surprised a lot of people. Kirk Cousins go down. He gets moved to the Vikings. He comes out. He doesn't even, not only does he not know the playbook, he doesn't even know all of the people on his team's name, okay? And he comes out there, he wins the first game, and then he looked incredible in the last week. And I don't care who you're rooting for. How do you not root for Josh Dobbs?
Well, Josh Dobbs, great story, killing it out on the field, had the Vikings yesterday. Yeah. The biggest thing I think that we need to thank Josh Dobbs for, though, is, did you see the NFL finally changed their little like headline on Twitter or whatever? They got rid of Taylor Swift, and it's now like Josh Dobbs related. So Josh Dobbs killing the Taylor Swift storyline for the NFL for at least this week. So thank God.
I don't know if you saw that clip where she changed the lyric in her song to say Karma is a guy that plays for the Chiefs or something. I'm actually weirdly not a Swiftie, so I don't know exactly what the song is. And then we saw them making out and stuff. So they seem to be going strong, but she's all the way in Buenos Aires. So be that as it may. All right, moving on. The Browns beat the Ravens. This one was surprising to me, especially if you watch the first half of that game, which I was kind of dialed in on the first half and then wasn't paying attention to it because I'm like, oh, the Ravens are going to roll, like no big deal. And then all of a sudden the Browns are in it, and then they win the game 33-31. So Lamar Jackson threw 2 interceptions in this game, 1 pick six. They limited him to just 13-23, 223 yards passing, 41 yards rushing. I mean, the Browns are an incredible defense, right? I mean, I know from when the 49ers play them, this is one of the top defenses in the league. Does this sway you at all from how good the Ravens are? Is this just like a tough game?
Tough game. The only thing that does worry me, because this has been a problem for the Ravens going back to even last year, where they would jump out on good teams, right? They had a big lead on the Bills last year, the Dolphins, and they would blow these leads in the fourth quarter.
Right.
So to see it kind of happen again, where they kind of have their foot on the neck of the team they're playing, and then they just let up for whatever reason, you don't love to see that.
No.
But they just have so much talent, the Ravens do, all over the field, on defense, on offense. Lamar Jackson, he's one of one. No one does what he does out there. So they're tough. I have them to win the Super Bowl. I have Lamar for MVP. Yeah. So it's hard for me to be
Unbiased when
Yeah,
your money is involved.
non-biased when I'm talking about the Ravens. But when we get to this Thursday game, I'll be a little non-biased there. So
Well, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, Ravens, Bengals. Here, I mean, here's the thing too: is the AFC North is by far the most competitive division right now. And if you, I don't know if you were on this show, but one of my best bets for the season was the AFC North is the winning Super Bowl division, and it kind of seems to be. Obviously, I want the 49ers to win, but and I actually had the Bengals to win the Super Bowl, so I'm very high in the AFC North as well. Both of these teams are incredible. So looking forward to TNF. Finally, a good Thursday night matchup. Let's talk 49ers here. We're back, baby. We are all the way back. Absolutely pummeled the Jags 34-3. Trevor Lawrence could not get anything done. He was sacked 5 times. I'm telling you, Chase Young lining up there with Nick Bosa was something special. I love that they had the joint sack there, both of them coming together. Steve Wilkes came down from the box, down on the sideline with the guys, which is really what the 49ers are used to. If you think back to Robert Saleh had to be held back on the sideline sometimes. DeMeco Ryans always down there. And so it just didn't fit the vibe to have Steve Wilkes up in the box. So have him come down there. A lot of credit to Steve Wilkes. You know, he heard all the criticism. He made some changes, and this defense absolutely balled out. Brock Purdy, 296, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. That was one of my bets on Tops, which is a Sunday show on CBS Sports Network, was that he was not going to throw an interception. And everybody got a touchdown except CMC. And man, I don't know if you watched this game. It was such a blowout that I think a lot of people turned it off, but I kept watching because I'm like, we got to get CMC this touchdown. And if this was a normal game, you wouldn't run the score up like this. You wouldn't keep driving down. And they went for it 4 different times. It didn't happen. So I was really – now CMC is still a part of history, right? Because the last time someone got the 17 regular season was like, I don't know, 50 years ago or something. So he's still in that conversation. Didn't get to break the record. But are the 49ers one of the best teams in the NFL again?
They have to be. Especially when you look at the landscape of the NFC, right? The NFC is very top heavy, and after you get past the top 2, 3, 4 teams, it's kind of watered down. So Chase Young, when you add him to that defense, which was already considered one of the best in the league. Obviously, the rich just keep getting richer. So yeah, that was scary. I watched that actually. I watched the entire game because that was the only game I could get on my TV for some reason yesterday. So I was watching it.
Sucks, yeah.
Yeah. So it was a blowout. But I mean, do you think as a 49er fan, when you're watching this, like Deebo Samuel, right? Like how do you not go down at the 1 there? Kyle Juszczyk, whatever his name is. He catches it at the 3. How do you not go down at the 1?
He gets pushed in, though, because the Juszczyk one, I agree with you, and I watched it back, and the defender kind of hits him into it. So I feel like for him, he caught it, and then there was nothing he could do there. But yeah, I think in hindsight, but also these guys want their touchdowns.
Yeah, but I mean, for example, if you're Deebo Samuel, right, and you go down at the 1 there, Christian McCaffrey owes you for the rest of his life.
Oh yeah,
you got favors for the rest of your life here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would have thought that would have been something they kind of talked about, especially in the way that the game was flowing. Like if it's a tight game and you want to win the game, obviously you're not going to play around and do dumb stuff. But when you're up by multiple touchdowns, you have the luxury of kind of going down at the 1, letting CMC kind of make history, and everyone's happy, but just didn't go down that way.
Well, and he had 16 attempts, 95 yards. I mean, he did everything but get a touchdown, 6 receptions. I mean, he was a key part of the 49ers moving the ball down the field, and it just didn't happen. And in the end, I understood why we pulled the starters, and that Sam Darnold tried that last drive to give him a chance again. But I wish when they were at the goal line, I'm like, just put Purdy back in, just for this one. And yeah, 4 attempts, he got stopped 4 times. And I get it. The Jags are like, you're not going to break this record on our dime, And so they got those stops there. I felt bad for him, but it was kind of funny. Did you see the press conference after? He was like, I suck. Everyone scored but me. But he's a team guy, and it was a huge team win for the 49ers. And I think it goes to show how much health really is wealth. Trent Williams back on that O-line made a huge difference. The right side is still so weak, and it's so frustrating. It's like new year, new cast, same story. They just keep attacking the right side right there. But Brock Purdy made some big boy throws in that game. That one where he was basically getting tackled and he threw to Kittle and Kittle basically walked it in. That was the Brock Purdy that we need to see. That first touchdown to Ayuk was a bad decision. Threw in very, very tight coverage, but Brandon Ayuk bailed him out there. We already kind of touched on this, but Lions beat the Chargers 41-38. Great game, barely covered. Lions were 3-point favorites. That one, if you took the Lions -3, you were sweating in this game, especially when they were like 38-38. David Montgomery back on the lineup. I know fantasy managers and Lions bettors and Lions fans alike were very happy to see Monty back. 117 rush yards, 1 touchdown. And by the way, Jahmyr Gibbs also had a day. And I feel like Lions fans and bettors have been like, utilize both of them. And I think Jahmyr Gibbs had been underutilized until now. 77 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like you said, Jared Goff balled out, 333 passing yards, 2 touchdowns as well. And Justin Herbert always balls out. It's just they find a way to lose games. 323 yards, 2 touchdowns. The 7th most receiving yards this season went to Keenan Allen. Any additional thoughts on this game? Is there anything about the Chargers that you learned?
Katie.
Yeah.
Whoa, the Chargers. You know how much money I've lost on the Chargers this year? It's
sick. Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah.
And the funny thing with the Chargers is they've been on a couple Monday night games where they get me like twice in the same week. This week they happened to win on Monday night, so they actually covered for me. But
all right.
Yeah, I made this point on another podcast I do a couple weeks ago. Justin Herbert, to me, I'm starting to really think he's just a more polished Jay Cutler because he gets. Huh?
Interesting. I'm listening.
Yeah. He gets all this praise. He's got the cannon arm, right? He's got like the long hair. He looks like a typical quarterback out there. Mm-hmm. But when you're watching him out there, he's got the weapons all over the field. For whatever reason, you're just scratching your head. Why are they doing this? They continue to shoot themselves in the foot. The defense, they have playmakers all over the field on that defense, and they are Katie, I think I could go out there and do a better job, and probably not for the people listening. I don't need you commenting saying, ooh, but really, like, I'm watching this game and like you go down and you tie the game 38-38 and you give up a 50-yard play. Like, what are we doing out here? Crazy. The Chargers are the biggest frauds ever. Justin Herbert, until I see more, he's just a more polished Jay Cutler, and that's that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hard to argue that point. I'd never heard that before. I've actually never heard anyone compared to Jay Cutler. Herbert seems to be nicer than Jay Cutler is. But yeah. And one more thing, the Sunday night game was awful. Truth be told, there was 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and I was like, I'm going to bed. I cannot watch this trash any longer. But I'm curious what your take is on Jimmy Garoppolo, because they kept showing him on the sideline last night. And I had even tweeted out, I was like, it's time to stop scapegoating Jimmy Garoppolo and put him back at quarterback. He is not – Aiden O'Connell is not better than Jimmy Garoppolo. Yes, I understand that Jimmy Garoppolo has the most interceptions in the league, and he even missed, a couple weeks or whatever. But if you look at his other stats – if you look at the yards, if you look at the touchdowns, he's still there. Yes, he's missing people, but it just seems like they got rid of McDaniel, and then they were like, oh, we're just going to get rid of Jimmy too because Jimmy was his guy. And to me, I know they still won the game, but I think he's being scapegoated here. And I do think that he's getting just like a raw deal in general. I'm not saying he's the greatest quarterback there ever was. I'm not saying that he has played great this season, but he gets pushed around more than any starting quarterback I think I've ever seen.
No, for sure. And, I'm almost positive he has one of the highest winning percentages out of any quarterback that's played as many games as he has, which in the NFL, that's what you want. You just want guys that can go out there and win you the game. So I'm shocked that they didn't at least try it out with Jimmy Garoppolo with the new coach.
And the new coach, right?
Yeah. You got to at least try it out. He's definitely better than Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah.
But apparently, they were talking about it last night that a lot of players in the locker room just felt that Aiden O'Connell, in the few games, the practices, I guess he's been in, he's just showed more than Jimmy G has, which crazy because it's not translating on the field. They've won both games, but I don't think they won last night because of Aiden O'Connell.
No, and
Yeah.
these were two horrible some of those throws that Aiden O'Connell made, I mean, he was just throwing them right into the ground every single time, and I'm like, "Get this guy." But he's, you know who's the worst quarterback that's playing right now?
Who?
The pride of New Jersey, Tommy DeVito.
Oh,
He is he
yeah.
is he
Yeah.
is the he's got, look, no disrespect to New Jersey, okay? And did you see the quote that came out? That I was like, "This is the most New Jersey Italian thing." He was like, "I still live at home. My mom makes my
Yeah.
bed for me still, makes me chicken cutlets, does my laundry." And I'm like, "Well, I'm glad that she does all those things for you because you're about to get rocked by the Cowboys." And that's exactly what happened. All right, so before we get into Monday Night Football, do you have an early lean that you like for Week 11?
Yeah, there's a couple I like. We talked about the Cardinals versus the Texans. I like that one. One that I think you want to get on early, though, because I do anticipate this line climbing higher, is the Dolphins.
Yeah.
We were just talking about the Raiders. Aiden O'Connell ain't scoring 14 points on that Dolphins team.
Hell no.
Yeah. The Dolphins are definitely putting up at least 30 on that Raiders defense, especially coming off the bye, extra time to prepare. So Dolphins minus 10, I love that all day. Throw it in a couple teasers, get it down to 3. Let's do it.
I love that. And I love that you picked a huge spread or like lay this one because I'm doing the same thing. I'm doing the same thing with the Niners and the 10.5. This was 10 and it's already gone up, half a point here to 10.5. And we saw this with, normally I wouldn't say lay double digits with teams. And I know that I'm a 49ers fan. So you're like, "Oh, okay, Katie." And by the way, this is against the Buccaneers. But when the Cowboys were 15.5-point favorites, we talked about it on Monday and we're like, you know what? I was on another podcast. I was like, grab this now because this is going to go up. And what happened? It went up to 17.5 and they still ended up covering it. Both the Dolphins and the Niners, these lines are going to move up a couple points. So you might as well grab them now because these teams are hot and they're going to win. And look, if the Niners play the way that we know that they can, and they have now since realized that they can, I feel like this is going to be a bloodbath. They're back at Levi Stadium. The secondary for the Bucs just allows too much to happen. The Niners are healthy. I could see this line going up to 12.5, so I would grab it now.
I like that too. So it's funny because when you looked at that game, the Niners versus the Jags, right? The way I bet initially, I looked at that and I was like, "Oh, I'm taking the Jags +3 there all day," right? Everyone's going to be on the Niners. McCaffrey going for records. But then I looked at it and I thought to myself, wait, both of these teams had the bye week hit them at opposite times. Like, I think it was perfect for the Niners. It allowed them a week to get healthy, kind of shake off the cobwebs that they were, losing a couple games. Yeah. They came at the absolute worst time for the Jaguars, who were one of the hottest teams in the NFL going into the
their momentum. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, wait, maybe this is not a good spot to take the Jags here. And I stayed off it, thankfully, because they got routed at home. That's one thing you want to pay attention to as well, is like, when are these bye weeks hitting for these teams, right?
Right. No, that makes so much sense. One needed a break and one lost their momentum, essentially. And, there's so many people. I didn't bet. I don't like to bet, I don't like to bet the Niners against the spread. But I did bet their team total. Okay. Hey, it hit in 5 weeks and then it didn't for 3 weeks. They were stuck at 17 points for those 3 weeks. But I was like, the offense bounced back, is going to bounce back. I knew that Trent Williams, I was hopeful actually that Trent Williams was going to be back, knew that Debo was going to be back. And I just knew that Brock Purdy was going to have to throw a clean game. So of course they got over that. I mean, they went well over that 23 and a half, but so many people were like, "Oh, the Jags are on a 5-game winning streak." I was like, by the way, the Niners were on a 5-game winning streak and then they lost 3 in a row. That 5-game winning streak doesn't exactly mean anything.
Nope.
But to your point, different scenarios with the bye. All right, we are going to take a quick break here and we come back. We are talking Monday Night Football. We've got another potentially ugly one. We'll be right back. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words, Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the type of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. Back here on Moxie Bets, presented by Caesars Sportsbook with my guy, Kenny Bets Big. Kenny, let's move on to Monday Night Football. The Denver Broncos and the Buffalo Bills. It is a 7-point spread favoring Buffalo. This total is 47.5. These lines are as of 12 p.m. on Monday. So let's. What do you think? What's one bet that you like here?
Yeah, so the first one, I got the Bills first half -4. Full game spread is 7. I'm kind of that always sketches me out when you're around that touchdown area. So I don't want to take them for the full game. But Bills first half -4. I know that you were big on the Bills first half train for a while. Usually they come out hot and they put some points up early. So
I was big on the Bills in general.
yeah.
I have since slid off of that train. But yes, first half, I agree with you.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go Bills first half -4.
I've been on the bad end of taking dogs this year, and I think maybe that's one of my salty things of the year. It's like when the Lions are up against the Ravens, I was like, you know what? This Ravens secondary hasn't really seen a quarterback like Goff, and then they got actually demolished. And then the Bills, I was like, the Bills are going to win against the Bengals. It's DeMar Hamlin day, and then they, lay an egg. So I'm just like, I'm off of the big dogs here. Okay, I'm not on this, but I will say what I am on is unders. Prime time unders now 24-7, hitting at nearly 78% this season. They've hit in 10 straight night games, including 14 of the last 15, 64-29, 68.8% since the start of last year. And it's so interesting because I was reading an article and I can't remember where it was. So sorry for not being able to give the credit. But there was sportsbooks talking about how it's a historical year for unders. They've been hitting left and right, even in regular season games, but certainly in primetime games. And like these numbers suggest, we've been seeing this for a couple of years now. Bettors still haven't caught on. People are still hammering the overs, and sportsbooks are cleaning up. So until otherwise, I am blindly betting unders, especially in primetime games.
You can't argue those trends. Unders, I keep talking myself out of them. Like I see it and I'm like, oh, like they keep
Because
posting.
the numbers are so low. Yeah.
Yeah, they're getting crazy low. And then they keep talking about it. You see it all over social media that the unders have been a cash cow. So you always think like, oh, okay, well, this isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And then the under hits again and you're like, oh, damn, I should have taken it. So,
but that's the thing. I think because we keep seeing it, because we keep seeing it all over Twitter and social media, unders on, and you're like, okay, everybody's on this under. But the reality is everybody's not actually on the under. People are still betting these overs and books are cleaning up. And it's perplexing to them that all these stats are out there and people keep betting overs. Now, of course, now that I've gone on this diatribe, I'm sure today is the day that the over hits, but 47.5 is pretty high for a primetime game, especially from what we've seen. Prop bet I like Josh Allen for an interception. I mean, we do know that I am the interception queen. Also, we talked about Jimmy Garoppolo being picked off a lot. Interceptions are up across the league. I mean, it's been a great day for a great year for betting interceptions. If you're someone like me that likes to fade quarterbacks, he's been picked off in 7 of Buffalo's last 9 games, including in 5 straight games. And say what you will about the Denver defense. I mean, they are awful. The last couple of games, they have started to play a little bit better. And I don't know what it is about Josh Allen, but he cannot throw a clean game. It's at -142, but he's getting a cookie tonight.
Yeah, it's I feel bad for Josh Allen because it's you're not lying. When you pick these guys to throw a pick, it's like the first few series too. Like he's gonna throw in the first half probably. Yes. I got a prop bet. I'm gonna go Jerry Jeudy, 50+ receiving yards. It's -125 on Caesars, but I'm also gonna ladder this up. So I'm gonna take a couple of his alt yards. So like if you go, I took a screenshot here so I wouldn't forget it. If you go 75+, it's +230. And then if you just have him 100-yard receiving yard game tonight, +650. The Bills secondary banged up. The Bills defense, if you look at since they've had, this string of injuries, their defense started off amazing, one of the best in the league. They've been one of the worst in the league for the last 4 or 5 games since they've had all those injuries. So maybe Russell Wilson has finally started to look a little bit. He doesn't look like he's,
his numbers are not that bad.
Yeah. Yeah. But he just looks terrible. I don't know what it is about Russell Wilson. Not that I've lost respect for the guy because, he's a nice guy. He's like doing nice things. But there's just something about him. I just don't like him.
He's so like memeable. The things that he says, he's just so cheesy. And I mean, last year was worse with the high knees on the plane and then the Subway commercial about the dangerous thing. And it was just like, oh, stop giving us ammo. He's stayed away from that a little bit this year, but he's memeable.
Yeah. Yeah. Future's also my favorite rapper. So,
Oh, okay.
Through
So,
Russell
yeah,
Wilson.
so
Yeah,
obviously we can't
yeah.
to be fair, Future's got a lot of baby mamas and a lot of drama and a lot, let's not single out Sierra in this one. But yeah, no, I feel you. I feel you. One more prop bet that I'm looking at, James Cook over 78.5 receiving and rush yards. So through 9 weeks, Denver is allowing the most rush yards per game to opposing quarterbacks. I know they've played a little bit better in the last couple of weeks, but 131 yards per game, nearly 5.5 yards per carry. They also allow the third most receptions per game to the position. So they're kind of weak in the screen game as well when it comes to running backs catching the ball. They allow the fourth most receiving yards per game. And according to PFF, they are the worst tackling team in the league. So James Cook, go off, my guy. Over 78.5 receiving and rush yards.
Yeah, have a game, James.
Yeah.
I like that. I might actually ride that one with you. I'm going to send that out to my clients. Say Katie sent this, so if it loses,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then it push some of the hate my direction. Although this one's passion.
Exactly. Last one I got for that game is I'm going to give this one, but I think I've done this a few times on this show, and I'm almost positive they always hit this way.
Okay.
So a 6-point teaser: Bills -1, under 53.5. But I actually think this is a game where, again, you could tease the Broncos up and the under and the over, and then tease the Bills down with the under and the over. And I think you'll hit all four in the middle somewhere.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I could see the Bills winning by somewhere between 7 to 10 point range, right? Maybe they cover. Broncos might backdoor. Something fishy happens at the end. And I don't see them scoring over 53, but I think they score over 40 points. So I think you can middle all four of those bets and hit all four.
I like it. Middle Village is where you're living in that one. I love it. Let's take a look at Thursday Night Football. And we kind of already talked about this. Bengals and Ravens. Very exciting. Ravens are laying 3.5. You could find it in 4 in some places as well. This total 46. Again, I'm just hitting unders until the wheels fall off, I think, at this point, if I'm looking at an early lean. But I'm looking at your bet right here, and I'm interested to hear what you're saying, because we've talked a lot of love on Ravens, but you like the Bengals plus the points.
Yeah, well, you can't bet with your heart, Katie. You got to bet with your head. That's a game where I'm definitely going to wait and see, right? If all of the action is on the Bengals, I'm not taking the Bengals.
Okay.
But if everyone is betting the Ravens there, I wouldn't be shocked if we get a vintage Joe Burrow. He comes out, lights it up, and, makes this thing interesting. Because if the Ravens win this game, the division's very tight, so it's not in hand. But if they win this game, they're going to win that division.
Right.
No, go ahead. You were about to say something.
Well, no. I mean, right. Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So,
yeah.
Bengals +4. It's funny enough, these teams, anything in the AFC North, they always play it down to a field goal, right? Like, look at the Browns-Ravens yesterday. As game was lopsided as ever, came down to a field goal. So if you're going to give me +4 with the Bengals there, I got to take it.
Yeah, and his bounce back spot too. I guess both of them are kind of looking for a bounce back here. But yeah, this is gonna be a huge defensive game, though, is kind of what I think. I think these defenses are going to show up and show out, and it's going to be a little bit hard on the quarterbacks. So is why I like the under. But yeah, I mean, I see your point there. I think this game is definitely going to be within a field goal, so you might as well take the underdog in this. But I know that you're hoping that the Ravens win this game.
Yeah, Yeah, like I said, I'm going to wait and see. The line opened 3. It already started moving. So you can't really bet the Ravens now because you already lost the best line, especially when it goes from 3 to 3.5. Like,
right.
A terrible line, especially when these guys usually play down to a field goal. So it's a game where I wouldn't be shocked if the Bengals go up. And if I can get the Ravens money line at like -110 range, I'm slamming that. Yeah, right. I think the Ravens win the game. But if you're going to give me 3.5, 4 with the Bengals, I got to take it.
Yeah. Where is this game? Is it in Baltimore?
Baltimore.
Okay. So that's a tough place to win. That is a tough place to win. All right, Kenny, thank you so much for joining the show today. You mentioned that you're on another podcast as well. Talk to us about what you got going on and where the people can find you.
Yes, I do. It's called Veterans Minimum. It's with a buddy of mine, Nick Diaz. It's over at the Wynn in Las Vegas, but awesome. We're doing like the Circa contest together. So we do like talk about our picks, how we're doing there. Week 10, we have only had 2 losing weeks. So we're in the top 20%. We're in striking distance. We might win.
All right.
Yeah. That would be, how cool would that be, right? If I win the Circa Million contest, that would be legendary.
Yeah, then you'd be Kenny wins big, which you are in general.
Yeah, no.
That's
Honestly, I don't even care about the money. When you win the Circa contest, they put you in. They have like this like Hall of Fame thing that your name goes on like the plaque. I
Oh,
just
is
really
that
want
how you get in there? I was wondering because I remember when they like unveiled the Gamblers Hall of Fame, and I knew that there was some like legendary sports bettors in there, but I didn't. So if you win the Circa Millions, you get your name on a plaque.
Yeah, I'm pretty positive that's how it
Okay.
works. That's what my buddy told me. He could have been lying to me, but
I don't. By the way,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know either way. If you do know, tweet us and let us know. But otherwise, that is pretty cool. You can follow Kenny on socials at Kenny Bets Big on Twitter and also on Instagram. Kenny, always a joy having you on here. Good luck with your bets. This has been Moxie Bets presented by Caesar Sportsbook. Don't forget to follow us on social as well at Moxie Bets. We will see you on Thursday.